Welcome back to Vibe Podcast. Today we're discussing the legal proceedings in the Tyler Robinson case, a topic researched for us by David Morgan. I'm joined by Charles and Angela.
Good day, Alice. Charles here. As a former High Court judge from the United Kingdom, I bring a perspective on judicial process and the upholding of legal principles, which I hope will illuminate today's discussion.
And I'm Angela, a crime investigator from the United States. I'm here to offer insights from the ground level, focusing on the practical implications of these legal maneuvers on an actual investigation.
Excellent. Let's dive right into the Tyler James Robinson case. Looking at the timeline, Charles, one detail immediately jumps out at me. The court prematurely granting a motion to preserve evidence back on October 20th, 2025. As a former judge, what's your take on a court acting before the state's response is even due?
Yes. A rather curious turn of events, wouldn't you say? In my experience, judicial prudence dictates awaiting all submissions before making a ruling, particularly on a motion as fundamental as preserving evidence. Granting it prematurely could indicate an oversight, or perhaps an abundance of caution on the judge's part, but it certainly opens the door to procedural challenges, as we saw with the state's swift response and motion to set aside. It suggests a slight departure from the usual orderly flow of justice, which we strive for in court.
From an investigator's standpoint, preserving evidence is paramount, so the intent behind the motion is sound. However, the timing does raise eyebrows. When the state has to immediately file to set aside an order, it creates extra work and potential confusion. Thankfully, it seems they eventually reached a stipulated motion, which is often the most efficient way forward when both sides agree on the core issue of preservation. For us, the sooner evidence is secured, the better, but it must be done through proper channels.
Speaking of proper channels and ensuring fairness, the defendant Tyler Robinson also filed a motion to strike the sheriff's response regarding his request to appear in civilian clothing and without restraints. And the court actually granted it. Charles, the principle of appearing unshackled and in civilian clothes is a cornerstone of a fair trial, isn't it?
Absolutely, Alice. It is a fundamental principle, both in the United States and the United Kingdom, that a defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. To present an individual to a jury in prison attire or in restraints can, quite subtly, prejudice the jury against him from the outset. It suggests guilt, or at least a dangerousness that may not be borne out by the evidence. For a court to grant a motion for unshackling and civilian clothing indicates a judge's commitment to upholding that presumption of innocence and ensuring a fair trial environment. The decision to strike the sheriff's response also suggests the sheriff's arguments against this were not deemed sufficient or appropriate by the court.
On the ground, maintaining security is a constant balancing act. When dealing with someone accused of aggravated murder, like Robinson, there are legitimate concerns for the safety of everyone in the courtroom. However, I agree with Charles, the visual impact on a jury is undeniable. We've seen cases where jurors admit their perceptions were colored by a defendant's appearance. The judge's ruling here is a clear signal that the constitutional right to a fair trial, free from visual prejudice, takes precedence over the sheriff's immediate security preferences, provided, of course, that reasonable security measures can still be maintained.
The text also highlights the establishment of a standing decorum order, setting rules for media coverage and courtroom conduct, and the news media's subsequent request for notice of any motions to close judicial proceedings. Angela, how challenging is it to manage media presence in such a high-profile case, especially when digital evidence like text messages and social media are central to the prosecution's case?
It's incredibly challenging, Alice. High-profile cases generate immense public interest, and the media plays a crucial role in transparency. However, uncontrolled media can sensationalize, prejudicing potential jurors. A standing decorum order is essential to set clear boundaries, where cameras can be, what can be filmed, what interviews are permitted. For investigators, especially when digital evidence like text messages and social media posts are being presented, it's vital that the media accurately reports on the evidence, rather than speculating or misrepresenting it. These pieces of evidence, like Robinson's alleged confession via text, are extremely powerful, and their handling, both in court and by the media, needs to be precise.
Indeed, the media's right to report must be carefully balanced against the defendant's right to a fair trial. In the UK, We often have more stringent restrictions on what can be broadcast or published during active proceedings to prevent prejudice. The U.S. approach tends to be more open, yet requires very firm judicial control over courtroom conduct. The news media's request for notice on closing proceedings is entirely understandable. They are the public's eyes and ears, but the court's decorum order is there to ensure the integrity of the process, not to stifle legitimate reporting.
And looking at the charges, Tyler James Robinson faces aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and a violence offense committed in the presence of a child, with the possibility of the death penalty. Angela, from an investigator's perspective, these are incredibly serious charges, especially with the alleged motive being political beliefs.
These are indeed among the most serious charges one can face in the U.S., Alice. Aggravated murder, particularly with the death penalty as a possibility, means the stakes couldn't be higher. The alleged motive, targeting someone due to political beliefs, adds another layer of complexity and public interest, often leading to a more intense media scrutiny. From an investigative standpoint, confirming motive is critical, and the reliance on digital evidence, text messages and social media, showing alleged confessions and planning, is a testament to how crucial digital forensics has become. This type of evidence can be incredibly powerful in court.
The death penalty, of course, marks a profound divergence from legal systems like that in the United Kingdom, where capital punishment has long been abolished. The gravity of such a potential outcome undoubtedly places immense pressure on all involved in the legal process, the defense, the prosecution, and especially the judiciary, to ensure every possible safeguard and procedural integrity is meticulously observed. It elevates the standard of proof and fairness to its absolute highest level.
Charles, Angela, thank you both for these illuminating insights into the Tyler James Robinson case. That's all for today. A big thank you to our guest researcher, David Morgan, for providing our topic.
Trying to find redemption in the choices that I make. Every mile reminds me of the love I couldn't hold. Every scar's a story, every tear's a piece of gold. And I swore I'd never turn around, but the truth